Hi everyone, our Matthery is taking a different turn today and we're not actually talking about a mathematician. Well, my goal was to maybe find a mathematician to talk about on this subject, but it turns out there isn't one. So I had a friend send me this problem the other day, this little problem right here, and there's apparently a huge debate on the internet because, that's what the internet is for apparently, on what the correct answer is depending on order of operations. Okay, I can actually see it two different ways. Okay, so what I see is, for me, I don't like using the divide sign once we get to algebra. So if we have the divide sign, then we need to use the multiplication sign as the x. If we're going to use a 2 next to a parentheses, then that means we're in algebra, in which case the divide sign to me means that that's a fraction, in which case it would be 6 divided by 2 times 1 plus 2. Okay, does that make sense? And so if we do that answer, it's 6 divided by 1 plus 2 is 3. 3 times 2 is 6. So that equals 1. Okay, but if we follow what most people are taught as the order of operations, that means that we do the parentheses first, right? So we'd have 6 divided by 2 times 3, and then we're supposed to do the multiplication and division from left to right. So then we do 6 divided by 2, which is 3, times the 3, which gives us 9. So it's a big debate. Is it 1 or is it 9? Is it 1 or is it 9? And so then the conversation with my friend, I was like, I can argue it both ways. And then she was like, so who even invented the order of operations? Because it's something that's taught as like gospel truth, right? And, we've done the mathematician Brahmagupta, and he's the one that came up with the rules for positive and negative numbers. And so I was like, yeah, there's probably somebody out there that was like, cool, order of operations is my thing, and that's what I did. So I tried to do some research, and that doesn't exist. That person doesn't exist. Some of the rules, I did find a cool blog called The Math Doctors, and it's continuing the mentoring tradition of Ask Dr. Math. Anyway, they apparently have like pages and pages of articles on the order of operations and how there is a lot of debate over it because the conventions aren't actually consistent. Even though we kind of feel like math and something this basic in math has been set for hundreds of years. Turns out it's not. So, really the order of operations, some of them come just from the nature of what math is, right? So we have addition. Multiplication is just repeated addition. So multiplication should be done first. And then multiplication, exponents is just a faster way to write multiplication. And so exponents is done before multiplication is done before addition. Those rules just came about naturally. Those were happening before people wrote the math down. Those were happening, again, before like algebraic notation as we're talking about. So this kind of stuff here didn't really start being written down until the 1600s. But those conventions of doing multiplication before division and exponents before multiplication, and the same thing with division and subtraction, had been happening for who knows how long, but lots of years before then. But as they were starting to make their algebra notation, those rules came naturally. But when it comes to multiplication or division first and reading right to left and using different types of notation for different operations, because that, like I said, this one's kind of half and half. This side is written algebraically and this side is not. And so it's not a consistent question. And to this day, just like it's happening on the internet now, there actually isn't a correct answer because it's up to interpretation. Isn't that crazy? We normally, for something that seems as simple as this, there really isn't an absolutely correct answer. which I think is just crazy. But there's all sorts of stuff I've learned about order of operations. The whole idea of PEMDAS, which, you know, you've been taught since you were a kid, probably just came about when textbooks started to be printed. So right at the beginning of the 1900s or so. Like that again, that's not like a long existing math rule. That was just kind of a convenient way to memorize something. Anyway, there's lots of paragraphs about how this is an implicit multiplication because we don't put the multiplication sign there. And because of that, that should actually come before an explicit division sign. So that's in favor of this one as opposed to in favor of this one, but this is what's taught more. So anyway, he was saying that this kind of rule, saying from left to right, is it's an artificial rule that we've kind of just made up, whereas doing just the regular, at least multiplication before addition, that's kind of a natural rule, so that just that came from the beginning of the notation rather than lots of fancy words. The latter, not having any absolute reason for their acceptance, have had to be gradually agreed upon through usage and continue to evolve. And I think that's interesting because, again, we think about especially simple math like this as being set, as not having an evolution of its own. But it's still changing and that sort of thing. I think I've mostly explained the fact that there's definitely two ways to look at it and the fact that they're both technically correct. I liked this, though, this line that he said, just as he has said that about modern textbooks, the best of them just avoid doing math like this so they don't have to answer the question. But those that do often fail to either follow their own rules or to state that they are making an exception and just evaluate it as if it were this. Why? Because they think that rules are rules, but they are too human to really follow them. I thought that was a great line. It really is demonstrating on how we're all human and things change and evolve, and as we learn new things and figure out new things, we have to kind of change our thought patterns. And that is true in math, that's true in science, and that's true in life. So there you go, life lessons for Matthery today and order of operations. Have a great weekend.